of Baron Trump's marvelous underground adventure. How I set to work to undo a wrong that had been done in the kingdom of the Minkaminkies, and how Bulger helped. Queen Galexa's confession. I'm created Prime Minister as long as she lives. What took place in the throne room? My speech to the men of Google Land, after which I show them something worth seeing, how I was pulled in two different directions and what came of it. Actually, that might be Goggle Land, but I'm saying Google Land because that sounds like Google, I don't know. Thank you for stopping by. Oh, excuse me, I've got a little bit of a cold here. The first thing I did after the genuine Princess Crystallina had left me was to seek out Dr. Nebulosus and learn from him the exact number of hours before the Queen's heart would run down. As he had just been making an examination, he was able to tell the very minute. It was 17 hours and 13 minutes. Rather a short time, you must confess, dear friends, in which to accomplish such an important piece of business as I had in mind. I then made my way directly to the royal palace and demanded a private audience with the Lady of the Crystal Throne. With the advice of Sir Amber O'Paque and Lord Cornucore, she firmly but graciously refused to receive me, giving as an excuse that the excitement that would be sure to follow an interview with the man of coal, so the Minkamies had named me, would shorten her life at least 13 minutes. But I was not put off in so unceremonious a manner. Sitting down, I seized a pen and wrote the following words upon a piece of glazed silk: to Queen Galexa, to Galexa, Queen of the Minkamies, Lady of the Crystal Throne. I, Lord Bulger, a Minkamanian noble, bearer of this, who was the first to discover that the real princess was not sitting on the steps of the crystal throne, demand an audience from my master, Sir Baron Sebastian von Trump, commonly known as Little Baron Trump, and prompted by him, I asked, "What are 13 minutes of thy life, O Queen Galexa, to the long years of sorrow and disappointment in store for thy royal child?" Taking this letter in his mouth, Bulger sprang away with long and rapid bounds. In a few minutes he was in the presence of the Queen, for the guards had fallen back affrighted as they saw him draw near with his dark eyes flashing indignation. Raising himself upon his hind feet, he laid the letter in Galexa's hands. The moment she had read it, it fell into a swoon, and all was stir and commotion in and around about the palace. I was hastily summoned, and the audience chamber cleared out of every attendant save Dr. Nebulosus, Sir Amber O'Paque, Lord Cornucore, Lord Bulger, and me. "Send for the damsel Glowstone," commanded the Queen, and when she had appeared, to the amazement of all saving Bulger and me, Galexa bade her mount the steps of Crystal Throne. Then, having embraced her most tenderly, the Queen spoke these words: "O faithful counselors and wise friends from the upper world, this is the real Princess Crystallina, whom I have for all these years wickedly and wrongfully kept from her high state and royal privileges. She was born with a speck in her heart, and I feared that it would be useless to ask my people to accept her as my successor." "I, Lady of the Crystal Throne," exclaimed Lord Cornucore, Thou hast wisely done. Thy people would never have received her as Princess Crystallina, for being, by the laws of our land, denied the privilege to look for themselves, they never would have believed that this spot in the princess's heart was but a tiny speck, like a single hair crystal, in the arm of the magnificent throne. Therefore, O Queen, we counsel thee not to embitter thy last hours by differences with thy loving subjects. My Lord Cornucure, said I with a low brow, I make bold to raise my voice against thine, and I crave permission from Queen Galexa to parley with her people. Forbid it, royal lady, cried Sir Amber O'Peck savagely, at which Bulger gave a low growl and showed his teeth. Queen Galexa, I added gravely, a wrong confessed is half redressed. This fair princess, 'tis true, hath a speck in her heart, which ill accords with the name bestowed upon her by thy king. Bid me, my master, until thy heart runs down, and by the knighthood of all the trumps, I promise thee that thou shalt have 3 hours of happiness ere thy royal heart has ceased to beat. Be it so, little baron, exclaimed Galexa joyfully. I proclaim thee prime minister for the rest of my life. At these words, Bulger broke out into a series of glad barks, and raising upon his hind legs, licked the queen's hand in a token of his gratitude, while the fair princess looked at a love at me that was too deep to put into words. I had now but a few hours to act. The excitement, so Dr. Nebulosus assured me, would shorten the queen's life a full hour. It had always been my custom to carry about with me a small but excellent magnifying glass, a double convex lens, for the purpose of making examinations of minute objects, and also for reading inscriptions too fine to be seen with the naked eye. Hastily summoning a skillful metal worker, I instructed him to set the lens in a short tube, and to enclose the tube within another, so that I could lengthen it at my pleasure. Then, having called together as many of the head men of the nation as the throne room would hold, I requested Lord Cornucure to inform them of the confession which Queen Galexa had made, namely, that in reality Damoiselle Glowstone was Princess Crystallina, and Princess Crystallina was Damsel Glowstone. They were stricken speechless by this piece of information. But when Lord Cornucure went on to tell the whole story and to explain to them why the queen had practiced this deception upon them, they broke out into the wildest lamentation, repeating over and over again in piteous tones, "A speck in her heart, a speck in her heart, O dire misfortune, O woeful day! She never can be our princess if she hath a speck in her heart." By this time my arrangements were complete. I had placed Princess Crystallina just outside the door of the throne room, where she stood concealed behind the thick hangings, and near her I had stationed Dr. Nebulosus, with a large circular mirror of burnished silver in his hand. Calling out in a loud voice for silence, I thus addressed the weeping subjects of Queen Galexa. O Micamenkes, men of Googleland, transparent folk, I count myself most happy to be among you at this hour, and to be permitted by your gracious queen to raise my voice in defense of the unfortunate princess with the speck in her heart. Being of noble birth and an inhabitant of another world, it was lawful for me to look through the sorrowing princess. And I have done it. Yes, monkeys, I have gazed upon her heart, and I have seen the speck within it. Give ear, men of Google Land, or Goggle Land, whichever you prefer, and you shall know how that speck came there. For it is not, as you doubtless think, a coal-black spot within that fair enclosure, clearer than columns of Galex's throne. Oh no, Minkies, 1,000 times no. It is a tiny blemish of reddish hue, a drop of princely blood from the upper world, which I inhabit. And this drop is all the countless centuries that has coursed through the veins of 1,000 kings and still kept its roseate glow, still remembered the glorious sunshine which called it into being. And now, men of Google Land, lest you think that for some dark purpose of mine own, I speak other than the pure and sober truth. Behold, I show you fair Crystallina's heart in its very life and being, as it is beating and throbbing with hope and fear commingled. Look and judge for yourselves. And with this I signaled to those on the outside of the palace to carry out my instructions. In an instant the thick curtains were drawn, and the throne room was wrapped in darkness, and at the same moment Dr. Nebulosus with his mirror caught the strong white rays of light and threw them upon Crystallina's body, while I, through an opening in the hangings, made haste to apply the tube to which the lens had been fitted, and catching the reflected image of her heart, threw it up in plain and startling view upon the opposite wall of the throne room. Upon seeing how small the speck was, and how truthfully I had described it, the Menkaminkies fell a-weeping for purest joy, and then, as if one voice, they all burst out, "Long live the fair Princess Crystallina, with a ruby speck in her heart, and 10,000 blessings on the head of little Baron Trump, and Lord Bulger for saving our land from cruel dissensions." The people on the outside took up the cry, and in a few moments the whole city was thronged with bands of Queen Galex's subjects, singing and dancing and telling of their love for the fair princess with the ruby speck in her heart. I had kept my word. Queen Galexa would have at least 3 hours of complete happiness ere her heart ran down. But suddenly the river of light began to flicker and dim its flood of brilliant white rays. Night was coming. Noiselessly, as if by magic, the Menkames faded away from sight, stealing in search of beds. And as gloom crept into the great throne room, someone plucked me gently by the hand, and a soft voice whispered, I love thee. Oh, who other than I can tell how I love thee?" And then a grip stronger than that gentle hand seized me by the skirt of my coat and dragged me away slowly but surely away, through the darkness, through the gloom, out into the silent streets, ever away, until at last that soft voice, choking with a sob, ceased its pleading and gasped, "Farewell, oh, farewell, I dare not go farther. And so Bulger and his wisdom led me on and ever out of the city of the Megames, out upon the marble highway. Thank you. Until next time, take care. Love you lots. Bye.